Hello, YouTube. It is Lucy in the Sky with Dementia coming back at you. No, I am not dead. I'm not dead. Um, I've had some crap going on for a while, but I'm here. I'm okay. And I have a video that I have wanted to record for you for a number of weeks now, but I've been unable to. But I will tell you this. It is worth it. This is one that I got a couple months ago, and I have been in and out with this one. It's like I went from mad to sympathetic to mad. This person is a psychopath, and that is what I'm going to name this video. But I've calmed down a little bit about it because I've got to realize that, yes, these MLM people are crazy, but what they do is probably what happened to them. So I've calmed down, and let me tell you, it's been a while since I've seen you. I've missed you guys, but hopefully this one is worth it. And for those that don't know, um, I do MLM horror stories, and my email is lucylulu710@gmail.com. And I hope that I didn't lose a bunch of you because of my absence, because it wasn't my fault, but I'm not going to go into that. So this video is about what can really only be described as an Amyway psychopath. But let's just get into this. And again, I will say, when I first read this, I was pissed off. I was majorly pissed off. But then well, you'll see. You'll see. So this is about an Amway rep from years ago. But this person, obviously, it stuck with them. That is why they gave it to me. And I'm doing this in a way where I'm going to show you their email, show you their emails to me. And I'm going to try it in this way. If you don't like this format, let me know. Do you prefer the format where I just sit and read it off my phone? Let me know. If you prefer this format, then I'll do it this way. I've got one more that's coming with this format, but if you don't like it, if you'd rather it go back that I read it just off my phone, please let me know. Okay? So, shall we? Amway. What lengths will they go? Let's see. I have a story that goes all the way back to 1994. What is unusual about this is that the person never actually joined the MLM, and all names are changed. In the summer of 1994, I was pregnant with our first child. My husband, Tim, was worried about the finances. I get that. The first child, you're worried about the finances, and probably expressed this to a lot of people. My husband, Tim, was I'm sorry. I know it's coming, and this is what's upsetting me. He expressed this to a lot of people. One of them was an Amway salesman, Bob. So you're having your first child, you're worried about finances, and he messages it to Bob. Tim immediately recognized that this is something he did not want to get involved in, so he wanted nothing to do with Amway. But instead of telling Bob no right away, he said he would think about it. Well, this was bad. About a week later, so Tim expressed to Bob that he was worried about finances, so Bob gives him a call. Now, keep in mind that these were the days before landlines. Coach, I'm having a hard time. These were the days of landlines. So 1994, not a lot of people had cell phones. I told Bob that Tim was at work when he called, and I would let him know that he called. So Bob called asking for your husband, Tim. And you just said that Tim was at work. Okay. And then when Tim got home, he rolled his eyes and said that Bob has been calling him wanting to know the answer about Amway. So Bob has been bugging Tim to join Amway. I asked him why he just didn't give him a firm no and to stop bugging him. Tim just said the next time that Bob called to let Bob, the Amway rep, know that he was not interested. I was not happy about this. He should tell him himself, but I told him I would. So, in other words, Bob was calling your husband wanting to join Amway, but Tim didn't have the nerve to tell Bob that he wasn't interested. Okay. Say that I told Bob that he was not interested in Amway. And Bob's response was, we'll just have him call anyway. You told Bob that Tim wasn't interested. You're in the middle. I get it. But so the next time that Bob called, just tell him Tim's not interested. The next day, Bob called again. Again, I told him Tim was not interested. And Bob's response was, we'll just have him call me. Tim is saying he is not interested in Amway. I'm sorry, girl, you have to be put in the middle of this, but Bob should just listen. Tim is not interested. So when you said, well, have Tim call me, I was a little annoyed that Bob was not getting it, and I was stuck in the middle. I just yelled, yep, and hung up, hoping he would get the point. Well, he didn't. The very next day Bob called, I told him that Tim was not interested. Bob again said, have Tim give me a call. And I hung up. Now, if Bob doesn't get it by now, that Tim is not interested in Amway, and you're hanging up on him. Oh my goodness. A few days went by, and I thought Bob got the clue, but nope. On this day, on a Saturday, I heard a car door being closed outside the window, and you looked outside. There was Bob walking up our driveway. Oh crap, I thought. But Tim was home at this time, and I hoped he would just tell him that he wasn't interested, and then I guess that would be the end of it. So Bob shows up at your home. Tim's going to tell him to buzz off, and that'll be the end of it. Well, Bob immediately came in with the Amway pitch, and I looked daggers at Tim. And I was due any day. So there you are, pregnant, due any day, and this Amway idiot is at your door. And I wanted Tim to tell him no. I was very uncomfortable. The only thing that Tim could say was, I will make up my mind after I have the baby. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Your husband just should have flippin' told him no. He shouldn't have been like, oh, I'll just wait till I have the baby, then I'll make up my mind. No, Tim should have just told him no. But it is what it is. If you hear that scratching, that's my cat trying to come in the door. You'll just have to wait a minute. Believe it or not, the story gets worse. A week or so later, I went into labor. I will spare you the major details, but there was a problem, and they had to helicopter a surgeon in to do an emergency C-section. It was a very small town, and this was 1994, remember. So there was a problem with the labor, so they had to helicopter a surgeon in. I spent a week in the hospital, and the day I gave, or the day I came back, the birth announcement was in the newspaper. And I kid you not, the very next day, Bob called. So you get out of the hospital, the birth announcement is in the newspaper, and the very next day, Bob calls. I heard the call and I lost it. I screamed, "We just had a baby." Bob's response, "I know." So he had been scouring the newspaper, waiting for the birth announcement. How psychotic is that? He'd been going through the paper waiting to hear when you had the baby, and the very next day he calls Tim. I screamed, "Look, take a hint. Tim is not interested. Quit calling. Don't come over to my house ever again." Bob's response, "You want to make a bet?" And I said, "No, you are never to call or come to my house again." Bob's response, "You want to make a bet?" I hung up on him. I was fuming. This guy was not going to stop. However, days later, the phone rang, and it was another man asking for Tim. Of course, I asked who it was, and he said, "Mark." Mark from Amway. So, in other words, you bitched out Bob. So he went to his upline, Mark. I lost it again. I screamed that I was recording the call, which I wasn't. And I said if Bob ever called our house again, it was harassment. And we will pursue it with him and Amway. I was absolutely screaming at him, and he could not even get a word in. Good for you, girl. I would have lost it too. If the only way to shut these people up would be, oh, I'm waiting for the birth of my child. And then the next day, after the birth of the child was announced, this freaking Amway person is up your husband's ass. I ended the call with some choice words and some threats and hung up. I never heard from Bob or Amway again. It is ridiculous that trying to recruit someone leads to harassment. And when that doesn't work, you get someone else to harass. Thank you for letting me vent. You're very welcome. That is what I'm here for. That is disgusting. That Bob sit there looking at the birth announcements, waiting for you to give birth. Now, Tim should have told him no. I'm going to go with you there. And if anybody is watching this video, give me your opinion. What do you think about Tim? Should he just told him to shove it? I understand not trying to be mean, but Tim just should have told him no. And you, girl, were stuck in the middle. And you had an emergency C-section. I have had a C-section, but not an emergency one. And I've heard how traumatic those are. And I'm glad you spared the details. But that's the first time I read this, I was very, very angry. But anyway, hopefully this is the end of Amway for you. It sounds like it kind of is. Bob, I know you're not watching, but was it freaking worth it? Was it worth it? But at least Tim told him no. And from what I can understand, you haven't heard back from anybody. And let me know if you do again. And to anybody else, please, I know it's been a while, but this is Lucy in the Sky with Dementia. Send me your MLM horror stories. I will try to be more vigilant. I've got another one that's going to be in this format probably, but send it to me at lucylulu710@gmail.com. And until then, I am alive and well. This is Lucy in the Sky with Dementia taken off. And please, I will see you all very, very soon.